We're talking about college football schedules for the year 2024 because apparently, Clint, we ain't got nothing better to do.
We're travel agents all of a sudden, Daniel.
We are just
We're scheduling cruise ships.
very fixated. Well, we're not scheduling. We can neither confirm nor deny that this schedule was comprised on a cruise. We don't know if Nick Saban was invited onto a yacht when he proposed this 8-game conference schedule. We're going to talk about what it means for Georgia, what it means for the former GOAT, and what it means for the state of the SEC coming up here on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Daniel, I am Clint, and together we are Locked On Bulldogs. That's how it works. That's how we roll.
It's nice.
It is nice. And today, yes, as you can see, we're talking about Nick Saban still being scared. Talking about no division, no problem. It doesn't matter. It's the SEC. Let's play ball. And what is the downside of 8 games? But first, I want you to know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. More about them in a moment. Daniel, let's start with a whole bunch of people have a whole lot of things to say about scheduling. Now,
they do.
I don't know why people are so bent out of shape. Now, again, other people will say, well, you know, there's never been somebody who's won the national championship that's played 9 conference games, Daniel.
Do you know why that is?
Why? Please tell me.
Because SEC teams haven't played 9 conference games yet.
Oh, and
then when they do play 9 conference games and they're still the best teams in America, those teams will still win the national championship.
But what about Clemson winning in the ACC with it? They could have played 10 conference games in the ACC. Well, it doesn't. They could have brought in Notre Dame.
They had the best team, and so they won.
That's it.
And then they didn't have the best team. They lost.
This conversation, again, is just like a guy who does the redshirt or quarterbacking year, or just like the guy who wants to set up the bullpen in a 6-game series to win, perfectly planning it out and getting it all together. How about this? You go out there and pitch, and whoever pitches well, and if you pitch well, you win. How about this? You just go out there and you play football, and whoever plays the best football starts at quarterback, and then the rest will be redshirted or not, or transfer or not, or stay in and play. How about you let the chips lie where they may once you actually do something instead of hypothetically throwing all sorts of what-ifs around for days?
Well, it's interesting because there's only really one team in college football who has the capacity to go out there and do something, as you so eloquently put it, Clint, and that would be the your team, your hometown team. The old Georgia Bulldogs, old Kirby Smart squad. And that's why you hear Kirby Smart saying things like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? This is dumb. Why are we talking about this? Can I leave now? Because Kirby knows that he's going to go and coach his team, and there are going to be 12 games on the schedule until the NCAA changes their rules or schedule season length or whatever. And then as it stands right now, there's going to be an SEC championship game. And then as it stands right now, there's going to be 2 playoff games. But in the future, that's going to increase to maybe 3 playoff games. Who knows what's going to end up happening? Kirby knows that the games on the schedule are going to be what they're going to be. And then he's going to take his team and he's going to have to go out there and win them. Now, if you can win the games, then this scheduling thing doesn't really mean that much to you, because you know that you can take an L here or there. Maybe you get an unfavorable schedule. We're going to talk about the divisions in the second segment and all of that. Maybe you know that you can take an L and you can still have one of the best 2 records, the top 2 records in the SEC, make it to the SEC championship game, control your own destiny, win that game, win the college football playoff, win the national championship. Now, let's say that you're one of the other 200-plus coaches in all of college football, including coaches who formerly would have felt the same as Kirby Smart, because formerly they would have had teams capable of winning national championships, and dare I say, formerly, if they had had the most talented roster in college football history, they would have been able to do more than win 10 games with it. Those coaches have a lot of feelings about how many conference games the SEC should play. Those teams are out there lobbying like they're lobbying to make the college football playoff. They're out there. I think I saw a music video involving Nick Saban and an 8-game SEC schedule that's floating around. There's a lot of talking from a lot of people, and that's because a lot of people aren't capable of winning football games. They're not capable of doing what you said.
That's the problem. It's having this argument and talking about it. Kirby, again, had the best quote. This is why am I talking about this? This is the most inconsequential thing on the planet. So let me go play. It's kind of like if you hypothetically had a buddy that you were trying to get, you wanted an apartment and they wanted an apartment. You're going to flip for it. So you flip a coin and in midair, the coin hits a table.
It hit the table. It hit the table.
And then you say, well, hey, hold on. It's not fair. It hit the table.
It hit the table.
It's not fair. And they go, well, why is that not fair? It doesn't matter. It's all chance. No, it's not fair. Why are we talking about fairness in an absolute objective? Go out there and beat another team. There's data. It says points on one side and points on the next. And you might say, well, it's harder for some, harder for another, yada, 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 yada. It's the same people that want to come out here, strength of schedule for Georgia's cupcake this year, and always has been every single year. Go back and look at the teams that we beat. List them out, because we beat the teams that were good, not the teams that, oh, wait, before the season begins, you think are bad. Can you tell me definitively, Tennessee fan, that you're going to win against Kentucky right now today? No, you can't. Can you tell me South Carolina is going to lose 5 games this year definitively? No, you can't. What you can say is, well, here's my data background. Here's my opinion on it. No, go out and play the games.
It's talking season, Clint. We love to talk. We do love
do you know
to
what I love
chat.
to talk about?
What do you love to talk about?
I love to talk about betting and FanDuel.
Well, I love that.
Daniel, we're going to have just a little preview. We're going to have one of our favorite Dawgs stats back on. He's going to give us a breakdown, a little handicap of how to do betting over-unders preseason, give us some insight.
Tomorrow's episode, Dawgs Stats making another appearance on the show.
We don't know when, but he's coming back.
He's coming back.
And where we'd like to take this and go is FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On Podcast and Locked On Bulldogs. We love it. It's our favorite sports bet book to go to. Bet on season win totals, bet on single games, parlays, basketball happening right now. Get that in before
NBA Finals. There's only going to be a couple games left, so you better get your money in now.
Games 1 and 2. Let's just
not going to be too many more. But Major League Baseball, and then the win totals, the futures, the college football. It's time to start thinking about betting on college football, Clint. It's time to start constructing bet on a season-long bet on college football. These are the types of things.
When you win something like 4 years in a row on something, Daniel, some people may say,
I'm the Nick Saban of this bet. I would like to shorten the length of the bet because I can't compete anymore in the bet, and so I think we should change the rules of the bet to make it more advantageous to me. FanDuel is a great place to go to place any wager you want on any sport you choose. FanDuel.com/locked on. No sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not cash. That's FanDuel.com/locked on for more information. Make every moment more at FanDuel.
You can't shorten the bet and you can't shorten the season, Nick Saban. You can shorten your trip on a yacht once somebody comes on a video. You can go ahead and cut that short. Just get out of town. Get on.
By the way, look, how about this new look for the podcast right here? We're out here. If you're listening on audio right now, thank you so much for subscribing to the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those places. But if you're watching on YouTube, you see got a bit of a new graphics package here, got a new look to the show. And so do us a favor, subscribe to both sources. So go subscribe to the audio side, download that, subscribe to the YouTube side, leave us a rating and review on audio, leave us a comment on YouTube. We appreciate all of those things. Now, Clint, you said something interesting in the last segment. You said essentially, different words, but you essentially were making the point. The schedule's never fair or balanced. It's a silly word for us to even be using when it comes to this type of thing. Because, guys, I'm not sure if you know this, but Ohio State made the college football playoff last year. Was that fair? They didn't play the same schedule as some other teams did. They played a totally different schedule, and they didn't win their conference. They didn't win their division, and yet they made the college football playoff anyway ahead of some other teams. Is that fair? Fairness is not how college football works. This is not a league where everybody plays everybody. You don't play a 162-game regular season where we get to sort out on the field with, multiple matchups of every single team versus every other team. Even the division system, which seems to have gone away officially now after this year in the SEC, even the division system was by no means fair in any way, shape, or form, Clint. What is fair about some teams from the West only having to play SEC West teams and some teams from the East only having to play SEC East teams? What is fair about one team's cross-division rival being Alabama and another team's cross-division rival being Vanderbilt? What's fair about that? That the SEC's never, ever set their scheduling system up based on fairness. They have set their scheduling system up based on rivalries and geography. That is what they have attempted to do thus far. They are dropping the geography from that equation.
That is out the window.
We hope that they're going to keep as much of the rivalry as they can, but there's a lot of schools now. I'm not naming any names, but their name is Tennessee.
Okay, wow.
There's a lot of schools now that don't want any part of rivalries anymore because they would rather have fair schedules than schedules that include teams like Georgia, Florida, and Alabama, because Tennessee is scared of those teams.
Scared.
It's a real Gus Malzahn, I don't want to play Georgia and Alabama in back-to-back weeks, so I'm going to whine until the SEC changes the date of the Georgia game. It's that kind of energy coming from a lot of SEC fan bases these days. Alabama fans, looking at you. You're scared. You're just scared about the teams that you might have to play in this type of system.
That's it.
And let me just say unequivocally, Georgia fans are not scared.
No, that's the weird thing. When you keep on trying to project your insecurities onto us, we're not scared of anybody.
Now, do I want Georgia's permanent rivals in the SEC to be Texas, Alabama, and LSU? Like, would that be the best thing for Georgia's win total every year? No, it probably wouldn't be the best thing for Georgia's win total every year. But please do not act like Georgia is scared of any of those teams. Number one, those teams are not Georgia's rivals. Now, let me say this definitively. If the three best teams in the SEC were Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida, if they were, and they never will be, praise God, because it's Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida.
It's bad.
If those three teams were the three best teams in the SEC, and there will be so many Alabamers in the comments calling me a liar when I say this, but I don't care. I can definitively tell you I would absolutely want those three teams on my schedule if I'm a Georgia fan every single year, even if they are the three best teams in the SEC, because those are the three teams that Georgia should play every year. If it's only two, it should be Florida and Auburn, because those are the two most important SEC rivals Georgia has. But if you're going to add a third one in there, I want it to be Tennessee. Give me Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee. Those are the three teams I want Georgia to play, and I don't care how good they are.
And this is the most, I think, just depressing thing to me about sports fandom is that all
Alabama fans or YouTube comments.
No, YouTube comments are quite comical.
Okay.
I find bittersweet joy from how stupid people can be.
No, well, what if I leave a snarky comment in your comment section
Yeah.
and help you promote your video by doing so, that's
And more.
hurting you or
It's
helping?
hurting.
It's
It
hurting
hurts.
me. It
It
hurts
hurts.
me, guys. Just so you know, every time you leave that comment,
Daniel
please
and I are
stop.
very
It hurts me.
insecure men, and
Oh,
we're
it hurts
offended.
so bad.
We go home at night and
We
think
weep.
about it.
We just
By
weep.
the way, just something you haven't done in a while, Daniel. You said earlier, to quote you in an earlier segment, you haven't done the thing where you abjectly make things up that I state and then say it on the pod like it's fact for people to come at me on Twitter and YouTube comments.
Well,
You should
I'll
do
get
that.
to work on that.
Please do.
I'll get to work
Here's the thing that's depressing about sports fandom is, again, Georgia fan. When we looked at I've been on podcasts, I've been guests on radio shows where somebody will say, okay, Clint, what do you think about the chances? This was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. What do you think about the chances of Georgia against Auburn or Georgia against Alabama? I'm like, yeah, have you watched games? Like take your history, take the GOAT, take the records. Have you watched games? Have you seen the players? Have you seen the recruiting? Have you seen the coaches? Have you seen the product on the field? Because I'll say something along the lines of like, yeah, Georgia's the new standard before we went two-peat. And they're like, okay, you got to do it more than once to be the standard. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we did that. So now are we the standard? No, you got to do it for 10 years. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was just using your words to define. No, Stetson Bennett's going to come in and beat y'all. Oh, come on.
Come on. Not Stetson Bennett. You could never win.
Have you seen the – just look. Just look and know. Don't take a thing that's right. Don't be a national. This is why national gurus, national media are the worst. Don't look at a sheet and say, oh, well, this sheet's telling me, Kirk Herbstreit, that somebody's ahead of Georgia. And I have to do that because, look, you don't get to do that. Do actual, I don't know, research. Look at things with your own eyes and not just strengths of schedule and all that BS. It's just a load of malarkey. We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about the downside of the 8-game schedule coming up next. Downside. There has to be a downside to this new scheduling format, Daniel. There's no divisions. One big happy SEC family welcoming in the likes of Oklahoma and Texas next year, which, by the way, again, Texas, Oklahoma fans, thank you. We appreciate y'all being here. Already getting a head start on the hate of the top dog. We understand. Can't wait. Also, just so you fully understand our position.
Okay. Say it clearly for them.
Than South Carolina and Kentucky, and are on the bottom feeder list next to Mississippi State. I can't say the other one, but you're close to Mississippi State. I'm gonna hold off there. So welcome. Glad you're here.
Welcome to the SEC. So excited to have you. I'm sure it's gonna go great for you.
By the way, Sark, I would like to introduce you to a coach from Auburn. You guys got a lot in common.
Texas is back, Clint. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but Texas is officially all the way back, and cannot wait to see them win the SEC many years in a row. I don't know that there's a real definitive downside to the 8-game schedule. I do think it's only going to happen for 1 year. I do think after the next year, once TV deals switch out in place, which, by the way, we haven't talked about. We haven't spent nearly enough time talking about the joy that fills my life, knowing that in 1 year, in just one more year, Georgia will be done with Gary Danielson forever.
I don't think you guys understand that this man will not be employed anywhere.
I feel warm all over. He's going to be calling a Rutgers Penn State game.
And still talking about
2:30 in the afternoon, and just absolutely still.
Back when I was at SEC Saturday,
old Nick wouldn't stand for that kind of play. I'll tell you that.
Oh my gosh.
I do think once the TV deals shift, I do think eventually the 9-game schedule will win out. Nick Saban will be dead eventually, and people will be able to move forward with their lives. I do think if there's going to be a downside of the 8-game schedule, 8-game schedule, no divisions, you run the risk. And again, I don't think it's going to happen necessarily because I don't think it's going to have enough years. There's not going to be enough years to allow for an opportunity for it to happen. But with an 8-game schedule, unbalanced, no divisions, you could have a like legit fluke team in the SEC championship game. Like, I'm talking about a legitimate like team that goes 7-1.
He's not talking about overall record. He's talking about SEC only record.
They go 7-1 in conference.
Ole Miss can do this,
and they literally beat the 7 worst teams in the. That is possible. I'm not saying, again, unlikely.
Missouri,
might it happen?
Vanderbilt, Kentucky on a down year.
Yeah.
A&M every year.
That's theirs, and then you have teams. You have teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 best teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
All but one of them are standing there looking at the SEC championship game going, we're way better than that team. But we were left out because they went 7-1 and we all went, 6-2 in our conference schedules, blah, 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 all of that. I don't necessarily predict or think that that's going to happen, but I think long term, if you're going to do these unbalanced the beauty of the divisional schedule, like it or not, and it's not fair. So again, back to segment 2. The divisions are not fair. The SEC East has been down for many years. Georgia fans hate to hear that for whatever reason. Who freaking cares that the SEC East is down? The SEC East has been worse than the West for many years. Before that, the SEC East was way better than the West. Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, way better than the teams from the West. The divisions have never been fair, but what they did offer was that you did have to have a better record than teams that you played in order to go represent your school to play for a conference championship game. This will open the doors to schools getting in over other schools when those two schools did not play each other at all, versus that never happens in the divisions because you play everybody in your division, obviously. And so most of the time, either you have a better record or you beat them in a tiebreaker scenario because you beat them head to head. And so you have that to fall back on. I do think there could potentially be some more controversy with the SEC championship game because of that. The 8-game schedule is worse than the 9-game for that. That's why I don't think it'll stay that way for long. But again, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. Look, the downside of the 8-game schedule, again, this is a fluid concept. College football, get used to change and realignment and get ready for the big power conferences, the Premier League that's going to come eventually. It's going to happen. And I don't know what to tell you. If you're not prepared for that, if you're not ready for that. It's
still going to be fun to watch college football. I know you don't want to believe that. It's still going to be fun. And there have already been UCF fans claiming a national championship. So
remember when that was a thing?
When that's going to happen again, when UCF literally is not considered, or some school, it doesn't have an opportunity to play for the big boy Champions League, like championship that means everything, that Georgia's going to be winning every single year under Kirby Smart.
Here, do me a favor. Go watch Ted Lasso and learn about soccer and learn about relegation. Because that sort of thing is going to start.
That's the kind of thing that we need. How many years after Nick Saban retires till Alabama gets relegated? 3?
3.
Maybe 3. That just depends. I mean, once Dabo turns them down, it's going to be, who are they going to turn to? I had somebody the other day tell me, Clint.
Once Dabo
I heard somebody the other day tell me.
It's true, by the way.
Nick's Georgia fans better. I'm going to get the quote exactly right.
Can't get it.
Georgia fans better enjoy Kirby Smart while they can, because as soon as Nick Saban retires, Alabama's going to steal him away. Like, this was a legitimate person said those actual words to me with a straight face. And I said...
You need to give me names.
And I said, you don't know this person. And I said, just like Glenn Schumann, just like they stole Glenn Schumann away. And they were like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, there you are. There you are.
Fine. We're fine. It has been Locked On Bulldogs by Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.